So it's interesting. Hey everybody, how are you? Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, happy new year to everybody. How is everybody doing? It is the last day of 2017, we're going into 2018. So this is actually our last Q&A of 2017. That's exciting. Hey Julie, how are you? Things are really, really good over here in Providence, Rhode Island. So it'll be really, really great to finish off the new year with some great Q&A, and we're looking forward to that. And then scroll up right there. Actually, we'll be able to see right in there. All right, so this is what we're going to do. I try to do this on every single Monday, and we do a Q&A. You ask me your dog training questions, and we'll give you an answer. Keep in mind that most of these answers take at least 30 minutes, to do, but you're only going to need about 15 seconds of my time. So unfortunately, that's all I can do. If you've never heard of me before, which is awesome, welcome to my show. My name is Jeff Gellman of Solid Canine Training. We are a training and rehab center based in Providence, Rhode Island. We do mostly board and trains. We specialize in aggression rehab, behavior modification, but we also train young puppies on, great life skills. We're really good at eliminating bad behaviors, and we're also really good at training what we want. A lot of times this show, though, it's punishment based. A lot of it is based on people wanting behaviors to stop. So how do you stop an unwanted behavior? You do it through punishment. How do you train a wanted behavior? You do it through reward. You'll never hear me talk science because most dog trainers and humans don't understand the science, and it really doesn't matter. If you've never heard my show before, I'm blunt. I don't put up with any nonsense. I'm to the point because why? I'm pretty much sick and tired of dogs being killed for easily fixable things. So everybody on Spotify, on SoundCloud, on iTunes, on Google Voice, welcome to the show. Everybody on YouTube, welcome to the show. Our sound distribution has been really, really huge, and it's going to be even bigger in 2018, so I'm looking really, really forward to that. Obviously, everybody on Facebook and Twitter as well. All right, so Linda, what do we got?
At what dog age and or breed would you trust around a toddler?
There's too many variables on that one. There's a lot of different, I need to know, the breed doesn't really matter. It's the behavior of the dog. So what's the behavior of the dog, and what's the skill of the toddler, and then what is the skill of the parent, and do you understand pressure on dogs? So just for frame of reference, my dogs are very well behaved as far as when it comes to children, and Angelo didn't actually come in contact with them until he was 8 months old, but he was around them at 48 hours old. So I'm a big advocate of dogs being around children, but not necessarily interacting with children. And to this day, Angelo just is around lots of dogs, but you'll never really see him petting a dog. I'm not against kids petting dogs, but I think, this concept that, you want them to be the best friend. It's like, no, you don't. You want them to exist. So it all depends on the behavior of the dog and the behavior of the child. It could be anywhere from 6 months, it could be a year, it could be, 2 years. There's a lot of variables. There's no one answer on that one. Next.
Looking forward to your seminar in Florida.
Awesome. That's going to be in Ellington, Florida. And if you want to know more about my seminars, you can go to rvdogtrainer.com, rvdogtrainer.com. Next.
Would Linda be willing to share that chocolate chip recipe? They looked amazing.
Just look on the back of the chocolate chip, chips packaging. Next.
I've got different opinions on that.
Next.
I'll share that sometime.
Next.
Happy New Year's Eve, Jeff, Linda, and Angelo.
Awesome.
Thank you, Lula. Love, Heather.
Awesome.
How's it going, Heather? Any suggestions with fireworks and dogs scared?
Yes, absolutely. So this is what I do with fearful dogs, and a lot of people struggle with the answer because they think it's mean. But you've never seen a dog jump through a second floor window and run away. You've never seen maybe a dog eat through sheetrock. You've never seen a dog shit and piss itself out of fear. So this is what I do. We punish the physical act of fear as far as movement. All right? We can't tell a dog not to be afraid, but we stop the movement of the fear response. So what we do is this, leash on the dog, collar on the dog. If the dog starts getting afraid and starts running around frantically, you actually can stop that. You just stop it immediately. How do you do that? Through punishment. So that can be a leash correction, which is usually what you're going to do. Then you have the dog go to place or into a down or into its kennel. But in its kennel, it can't be freaking out physically. So it can't be doing any OCD spinning. We want the dog to lie down in its kennel. That's what you do. Then what you do is you let the dog process it. we have found over and over and over again with fear response is that the dog will then start getting used to any fear, whether it's a broom, fireworks, or thunder. It could be a lawnmower. It could be, so many different things. Also, what you can start doing is you can start download from YouTube fireworks and thunder and different sounds, baby sounds, and start playing them at a low level and then increasing them. We do that with all of our, your working dogs. Next.
My dog tries to avoid me when I put on the prong. I put it on before he comes out of the crate.
Okay, so what you're doing is, this happens with a lot of dogs will avoid. It's not a prong collar or milk collar issue. I've seen dogs avoid slip leads. I've seen dogs bite you when you try to put a slip lead on. That's the dog's no. That's the dog's no. So what I would do is I would put a slip lead on the dog and I would role play it. And you role play that. And you can do that with all clicker and food. You can do that, but the act of it trying to avoid you, you can actually correct. So what you would want to do is you can have the dog recall or come out of the kennel, sit in front of you, and then do a collar protocol, send the dog back in, role play it over and over and over and over again. Next.
New foster. He is high level, barrier, aggressive with bites. Should I redo crate training with e-collar?
Yep. The way you want to stop any barrier aggression issue is with a remote collar. You do it at a high level. A lot of people will say, no, that'll make it worse. Well, if it makes it worse, you did it wrong. Bottom line. Why? We do it all the time and it eliminates it. So, and that's not from an ego brag standpoint. It's like because we're doing it right. A lot of times they'll be afraid that, oh, the dog will have a negative association, blah, 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 blah. The dog already has a negative association. You did not create it. So you're not going to make it worse. We eliminate that all the time. All barrier aggression issues. What do? You make the act of being aggressive at a barrier uncomfortable to the dog. Dogs stop what is uncomfortable. So then the other side of the coin is, oh, so you use pain to fix a problem. Yeah. How many times do you think dogs run into glass doors? Usually one time. Why? Because it sucked doing it. Nature creates discomfort in dogs all the time. Dogs respond by changing their behavior. And guess what? We can do the same thing as well. Now, we don't teach sit, down, place, or heel that way. But when you want to stop an unwanted behavior, and most unwanted behaviors are dangerous, right? They're dangerous. They end up with dogs being killed. I absolutely have no problem at all. A lot of dog trainers don't speak as freely about this. A lot of dog trainers don't know how to do it, or a lot of dog trainers just don't want all the hate that comes to it. But I'm more human-centric, and I don't want you to give up your dog for something that can be fixed relatively quickly. And you'll see that theme throughout my stuff. Next.
Here's my challenge. My dog, upon meeting a stranger, acts fine, but suddenly backs up and barks. Why?
Because your dog is nervous, fearful, and afraid. That's why. So what you do is you will punish the act of barking. Now, if the stranger keeps coming closer and putting more pressure on the dog, you can actually ask the stranger to stop. So I don't let people pet my dogs, just for full clarification. Now, have people pet my dogs? Sure, they have. Can people pet my dogs? Of course they can. But most humans don't know how to approach dogs properly. And people usually perceive it like, but my best friend is a dog lover. You know what? Your dog doesn't give a shit if your best friend's a dog lover. If there's such a dog lover, they should leave your dog alone, right? Let your dog just exist. So, but you absolutely, if someone just walks up to you and your dog goes nuts, you absolutely can correct that. The dog won't think that the other person caused discomfort. What I do in a lot of my show is I dispel a lot of outright blatant lies and the unethical information that's out there all the time. And I only speak what we know, and we've done hundreds, if not thousands of times. So I'm getting a lot of new listeners and a lot of new viewers to my show. So I'm going to start, talking about that more, obviously. Next.
When I go to put an e-collar or prong around my dog's neck, he objects and bites on my hand. How do I stop it?
So you can use the bonker. You can use a bonker. If you don't know what a bonker is, it's a wrapped up towel. Also go onto my YouTube channel and look up in my YouTube channel in the search box, look up Rupert Counter Conditioning, R-U-P-E-R-T, Counter Conditioning, and there's a video on exactly how to do that. Next.
How do you deal with destructive Borden with 8-month GSD?
A destructive
That's what it says, Borden.
Okay. How do you deal with destructive behavior is, number one, where are you? Where were you when the dog was destroying stuff? All right. So where are you when the dog was destroying stuff? That's the most important part, is like, is it's your fault. It's the human's fault. And this is, I don't blame or shame owners, but they're dogs. That's like saying, my 2-year-old, my 1-year-old fell out of a bed. Well, it shouldn't be in a bed. It should be in a crib. So what do you do is this, eyes on the dog at all times. Next.
When I walk 5-month-old pup, gets frantic. When the other dog gets ahead of her, yelping, barking, pulling. That's it.
Yeah. So number one, you would stop that. That's normal behavior. So a lot of what you're describing is normal behavior. So what do? Is you have the dog, stop the behavior, and depending on what tools you're using. So if you're using a harness or even a martingale or a slip lead or a flat buckle collar or a choke chain, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle. So, a prong collar, we love prong collars. We love tools. The reason why we love tools is because they empower. I'm not a dog psychologist, and actually I wouldn't trust a dog psychologist at all. That's pretty much scammy. So if you want to know more about me, just go to my website. I'm a dog trainer, and I do behavior modification and rehab, and we're based in Providence, Rhode Island, and I travel the world. I just wanted to get that in there right now because I can't stand that term. So what you want to do is, we love tools because owners need to leverage the tool against the dog's bad behavior, because dog owners are not dog trainers. They're not dog trainers. All right. So prong collar on the dog, teach the dog how to properly heel next to you, and have your other dog also heel next to you. Next.
Making lots of progress with fearful dogs since your Rhode Island seminar. Still shakes and pants
Awesome.
in car. Help.
Okay. So again, if it's shaking and panting, what you can do is, again, you can make sure the dog's in a down, facing forward, hopefully. And believe it or not, I'm not against essential oils, but a lot of people have been having some, they're adding that to their balanced dog training protocols, and it seems to be helping for car rides. Next. But essential oils don't fix behavior problems. No to drugs. Next.
Is it safe to let your dogs outside when coyotes and wolves are spotted? Aren't they the same family?
And Jeffrey Dahmer killed humans. Aren't they the same family? Son of Sam, right? So bottom line is, if there was coyotes and wolves in my era, I would always have a gun on me, and I would always have my dog in eyesight, and I would never leave my dog unattended. Next.
How hard is it to train the dog for therapy certification?
Therapy is easy, and there's no national certification on that. But there's a lot of misinformation out there about dogs. There's also a lot of lying and cheating when it comes to service dogs out there. So for a therapy dog, number one, you want to have the excellent public access skills. Incredible public access skills. All right, that's really, really important. You want to have a dog that has no aggression whatsoever, zero aggression whatsoever. You want to make sure that a dog doesn't have any reactivity whatsoever, zero reactivity. You want a really calm, mellow dog that has no problems with dogs or people. And if you want to get into therapy work for your dog, that's going to be the baseline. You also want to have a dog that's got really good behavior as well trained. Next.
2 female masks never fight. Had a fight over a week ago. I'm nervous to put them back together. Help. So
would too if I had 2 mastiffs and I didn't know how to stop or wreck their fighting. So there's always a reason. This is not a 15 seconds. Don't put them back together until you speak to somebody that knows how to rehab them. It could be anything. It could be, their age. It could be their there's their age. It could be if you've got 2 females, they tend to fight a lot. There could have been a resource. There's a lot of different variables. Next.
When crating, do it gradually. Do you leave a bone or something to take his mind off stress?
So no, you don't. This concept of crating a dog slowly is a bunch of bullshit. How do you sleep? How do you work? It's one of the most unethical things that dog trainers can never tell the people. Yeah, do it 10 minutes at a time. So that means I got to wake up at 12:10, put my dog in the crate this is a.m., from 12:10 a.m. to 12:20, take it out, wait 5 minutes. When do I sleep? When do I work? This is what you do. Hey, dog, it's 10 p.m. It's time to go to bed, right? Go into your crate. Good night. If you make any noise, I'll correct you for it. Hey, dog, it's 7 a.m. Good morning. That's what you do. So we do that at our training center all the time. Every dog is created at our training center. We've got dogs that have never been in a crate before. We've got dogs that are horrific in the crates. Next.
How can I recall my dog out of its crate to start conditioning him if he won't come to me and sit when he gets out of the crate?
Leash.
Also, how can I correct him if he doesn't have a collar on yet?
Okay, the dog should have a leash on. It's dog training, guys. It's dog training. Have a leash on your dog. Don't hope for the best. Don't just get a dog and hope for the best. So what you want to do is you're training. So what do? Leash on the dog. Leash on the dog. Next. I'm absolutely a teacher of humans and dogs. Next. And if you're not learning anything, then you're not ready to be a student yet, I guess. Next.
When you eat, is the dog in place? What about sneaking food when he is eyeing us?
Who's sneaking food? So the dog should be, you can do anything you want with your dog, but dog could be in plate. When humans are eating, so before, during, and after family meals, that's a great time to practice place. It's a great time to practice place. So your puppy's not stupid. Okay, it's a great time to practice place. But as far as eyeing food, if you are giving in to your dog, like eyeing food, that's weakness in humans. Your dog's just being a dog. So giving table scraps from the table to your dog, it's a really bad precedent to set. I suggest you don't do it. Next.
Why do organizations allow seeing eye dogs to continue to work when they're struggling?
Money. Next. And bad ethics. Next.
How can I recognize a good dog trainer?
Go to their website and go watch a lot of their videos. But there's good dog trainers that don't have websites and they don't do social media. But a lot of times you can just don't read what their accreditations are. Like you don't read what their accreditations. All they mean is they passed a test, and most likely a written test. It doesn't mean shit. You can have somebody that has their MBA in animal behavior, but they've never trained a dog to sit. So the proof is in the pudding. I'm a big show me guy. Show me. Also depends on what you're looking for your dog to do. Like if you wanted your dog to do agility, don't hire me. If you want your dog to do task training, don't hire me. Sport dog training, don't hire me. If you want your dog to be trained in obedience and rehab from aggression, hire me. Not me, but my company. So also depends on what you want. So the internet reveals everybody though. So that's great. Next.
Any recommendations regarding good books to read on this subject?
There's not a lot of great books. My buddy Sean O'Shea has a good book. So just go to thegooddogway.com. The Monks of New Skeet have a good puppy training book. Most books are filled with false information, though. Most books are filled with false information. So the best thing to do is watch a bunch of dog training videos and work lots of dogs. Work lots of dogs. Next.
Hold on, please. The questions are going crazy. Yep. It just scrolled all the way down.
Yep. You can go to solidk9training.com, solidk9training.com for more information. Some people ask, will I be doing the free Skypes in 2018? No, I will not. I did over 400 free Skypes. Okay. We did over $100,000 total in free training in 2017. So we're really proud of that. Not just with Skypes, but a lot of other stuff. Next.
We use prong on Roddy. Is 5 months too young?
No, you can start using a prong collar on a dog at usually 14 weeks old. Next.
How effective are long dog walks?
Long dog walks are great for both you and the dog, for the human and the dog. Next.
10-month-old. The questions are like going crazy. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
So no, John, don't stick your dogs. Well, if you don't ask a question, we have dead.
I know, I'm sorry, but all these questions just like zoomed by. I was all scrolled up and ready to start reading.
I know, but I can't have dead air. So go ahead.
Okay, then keep talking.
Okay. Don't stick your dog's face in a soil if it pees or poos in the house. That's a human error. You should have been there to catch it. Next.
Okay. I'm so sorry.
You have to apologize.
but we're right there.
Okay.
10-month-old dog pees, poos in crate at night. I take him to the toilet every hour from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. and wake up at 6 a.m. to take him out.
So what I would do is I would possibly, number one, are you overfeeding the dog? You could be overfeeding the dog. Feed the dog earlier in the day. So feed the dog earlier in the day. So maybe make the last meal at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Take away its water at maybe 6 o'clock. Dogs can go a long time without food, by the way, and they easily can go 12 to 18 hours without water. So you'll be fine on that. Also, make sure your dog's on a leash. It goes to the exact same. It goes to the exact same spot. To go to the bathroom, and then you can reward it for doing that, and then make sure it goes back out to its crate. Next.
Recalling one dog, but both dogs come to me. Names sound similar. What should I do?
That's going to be a little bit more challenging. What you need to do is you put them both in a downstay or put them both in the place, and then what you can do is put one dog on a tieback. A tieback will help the dog. If it tries to come to you, it can't come to you, and then you can apply a correction for getting it wrong. That's more of an advanced training protocol where it's going to be name of dog and then recall. If the other dog recalls to you, then you would have to correct that dog for doing it. To me, I could care less. When I call my dogs, if they both come, that's fantastic. Next.
Do you have your dogs pee and poop in a certain area? I just became aware that this is an option.
No, but you can do it. So what I do is my dogs, ironically, they do pee and poo in sort of the same area. So, but I don't. My dogs have about 2,500 square feet of space outside. And what you can do is you can just have your dog, it's up to you. If you want to do it, do it. If you don't have to. Next.
How do you know a dog has a high play drive?
You usually with a ball. You can usually use a ball for ball drive. If your dog is always on alert and chasing rodents, that's prey drive. You can use a flirt pole. If you know what a flirt pole is, just Google it, and you can see if the dog's got drive. You can also increase the dog's drive if you want to. A lot of your sport dog breeds, though, have high prey drive. Next.
I work in a casino. So many toy breeds are service dogs lately.
Yeah, they're full of shit. They're fake service dogs. Next. Mm-hmm. Some of them might not be, but I would say probably 99% are. Next.
Can you explain difference between reactivity and aggression?
Sure. Aggression is intent to harm, right? So aggression is intent to harm. Reactivity, the dog isn't necessarily going to bite you. I met some super reactive dogs, and they were on a leash. The leash is a barrier. It frustrates a lot of dogs. So there's a lot of dogs out there that are all show, but they won't bite you. There's other dogs out there that are not reactive, but will bite you. So aggression is intent to harm. We work with dogs that want to harm you, or they feel they have to harm you. We also work with reactive dogs, which is just a bunch of nonsense. Usually a lot of dog trainers in general, they'll see a reactive dog and they'll say, oh, the dog's aggressive. It's like, how do you know that unless the dog has a bite history or tried to bite you? So being reactive is just somebody yelling and screaming. You know what I mean? Idle threats. Next.
If you have a big fenced-in yard, is there still a need to walk your dog?
Yes. So the walk is one of the most powerful things you can do with your dog. It's leadership, it's structure, it's guidance, it's teaching the dog yes and no. It teaches the dog situational awareness about you as the dog's handler. The dog has to more yield to you. You can get your dog to focus on you. Just running around the dog. But having a big yard is also awesome. So you can have off-leash fun with your dog. But it's two separate things. Next.
How do you give corrections to a dog that's too small for a prong and e-collar?
You can use a bonker, which is a rolled up towel. You can use a pet convincer, which is compressed air. Anything that's intolerable to the dog. Anything that's intolerable to the dog. So you can correct a 1 or 2 pound dog. You just have to find something that's intolerable to it. It doesn't have to be painful. It just has to be intolerable. Next.
My Great Dane was eating grass for a few days before I took him to the vet, and he died.
That sucks. So something might have been wrong with your dog. It always sucks when a dog dies.
Sometimes they eat grass when they feel sick.
Sometimes they eat grass because it's there. You know what I mean? Next.
That was a good one.
Right.
Our dogs sleep on the bed. Are we bad owners?
No, you're not bad owners. If your dog struggles with separation anxiety and or aggression, you're making it worse, but that doesn't make you a bad owner. So next.
On the topic of crating, when crating a 10-week-old pup, how do we correct whining?
So 10-week-old pup's going to whine. There's going to be a certain level of whining to be expected, up until probably 12 to 14 weeks old, until your dog starts. Your average 14 weeks.
There's actually more to the. He said something else, but it was separate. I tried the bonker, tried smacking the top of the crate, and using no, but he still whines a bit.
Okay, so at 10 weeks old, your dog's going to whine. There's going to be a level of expectation, just like a baby poops in its diaper. Every time the sun comes up and the sun sets, it's predictable. There's going to be a level of whining. If you have a 10-week-old dog, be ready to have a little bit of a sense of struggle for a little bit. It's going to suck. It's hard raising puppies. It's very difficult to raise a puppy. It can be very rewarding, but it's very stressful. So at 10 weeks old, puppies whine. Next.
Can you recommend a good method for making a dog work for their food?
Any training, any obedience training, just do anything. Next. Or trick training. Next.
Also, thank you so much for everything you do. Very appreciative of you and your family.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for your kindness. If you want to check out, I did a nice Facebook post earlier. Next.
LOL, training a dog to sit is the easiest thing.
Actually, training a dog to not jump is easier than training a dog to sit. Just remember that. Next.
Okay, is tapping a dog with a rolled up paper and putting his face in poop the best way?
No, it's not the best way. You being there to no free roaming and where were you and crate training is the best way. Next.
Have you ever listened to the Dog Whisperer? Recommend it?
There's if you want to listen to it, there's good information on there. So if you're talking about not listened to it, but watched it, I believe it's a TV show. I don't know if he's got a podcast at all, but you feel free to, watch it. If you grab information out there that works for you, keep doing it. Next.
Can you really stop your dog from barking every time the doorbell rings?
Yes, you can. Next.
I redirected my reactive dog, but his redirections are excitement directed towards me. Is it okay?
No, it's not okay. Don't redirect your dog for excitement or for what I want you to do is I want you to eliminate the excitement. So a lot of times people use redirection, but that's not going to work when it comes to leash reactivity. So eliminate the bad behavior. Next.
How to stop a dog from running away?
Number one, keep a leash on it. If you've got a dog that runs away, don't ever let it off leash until you fixed it, and keep the dog on a leash and train the dog proper recall, which is the come command. So you train that underneath low environmental stimuli, and then eventually you do it underneath high level of distractions. But if you've got a dog that you can't trust to be off leash under voice control, keep it on a leash. Next. Dogs don't automatically just come back. Next.
Happy New Year, Linda and Jeff. I pray that you will all stay in nice and toasty warm. Thank you, Kim. It's Yankee Woman.
Kim, we're inside, so we're doing our best. Yep.
Safe.
Next.
Okay, let's be serious. Are pit bulls really dangerous to humans? Tell me the truth, please. Tell us the truth.
Okay, well, you're brand new to my world. Pit bulls are not dangerous to humans at all. All right, so actually he's coming off. Next, go.
Okay. I use YouTube barking videos when my dog barks at the sounds. What's my first move?
You would punish it. So you can use a bonker, a remote collar, a leash and prong, something intolerable to the dog to stop it from barking. You can use a bark collar on the dog. Next.
Worried my dog gets sick from licking floor and eating crumbs. Corrected with a prong, pop. Keeps doing it. Just keeps trying to stay on top of it.
So what you're doing is you're just chasing your dog. So if your dog is eating stuff off the ground, that's not the worst behavior unless they eat something poisonous. It is pretty annoying. Number one is you can do a couple of things. You can don't let your dog free roam, which now that's just management. Or what you can do is you can have your dog, I would use a bonker or I would use a remote collar. And every time your dog went to eat something off the ground, you would give it a correction/punishment. But also it's like, well, what do you want your dog to do? Just tell it to go lie down somewhere and sweep your floors. Next.
I have nothing so far.
Oh, really? So,
hold on. Got the mini educator per your recommendation. Is there an age that is too early to begin protocol?
At 14 weeks, it's a good time. You want to start putting it on at 12 weeks and let the dog just wear it. You can. We start all dogs on food training protocols with our remote collars. So there's a lot of misinformation out there. People are like, oh, don't do it. The biggest one I hear about remote collars probably is don't start it till 6 months of age, which to me, like, why would somebody want to wait until 6 months of age when your dog could actually be off-leash trained by 6 months of age? So if you've got a dog that's 3 months of age, imagine if you had 3 good months, which is a long time. That's 12 weeks of pretty good training. I would hate to see you lose that progress. But then again, if you had a dog that you adopted at 2 years old, then you could just train the dog at 2 years old. So you're not going to lose anything as far as like, oh my gosh, you made a mistake, but it's like you're already training the dog. Why not train it on a remote collar? Next.
When do you decide to use the Boss versus the Mini on a dog?
When your levels are in the 60s and 70s and 80s for basic obedience with no distractions, you would use the Boss. So it's just, but 95+% of the dogs that we work with, a mini educator is enough. A lot of times people wait, their timing is bad on the reactivity. So what they're doing is the dog's already in drive and they're trying to have a conversation with the dog. So what I would do is I would, make sure that your timing is a little bit better, and you can start recognizing when your dog starts getting aroused. Boss is the e-collar 800. It's just a stronger, powerful, and it goes a farther distance remote collar than the mini educator.
How do you stop a dog from trying to hurt a kitten? I've tried no, get away, but they still won't.
Okay, don't use the word no. Okay, no is an English word. Okay, no is an English word that has no meaning to a dog. All right, it has no meaning to a dog. We have to teach it what it means. Just like sit and down have no meaning to a dog, or recall, like come or here, have no meaning to a dog until we actually tell it what it means. So there has to be a consequence with the word no, something that's intolerable. So be careful about watering down your no command, just like you don't want to water down your yes command. So what you want to make sure you do is whenever you say no to the dog, there has to be a consequence. Next.
Happy New Year, Jeff and Linda and family. Thanks for all of your help in 2017. Rhode Island seminar was amazing, life-changing.
Oh, awesome. Was that Sarah?
Yep.
Awesome, Sarah. We love you. Next.
Trouble timing corrections. I mark with no, but it takes me a few seconds to turn on the right level.
That's fine. As long as your no is good. Your no. You can say no, and then you can have your punisher be 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds after that. The same with yes. You can do yes or click, and then you can have it, your reward be 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds. So you'll be fine. The marking of the behavior on yes and no is what's important. The delivery of the reward or the punishment is secondary, as long as it's inevitable. Next.
I have a new puppy, Cane Corso. Was told that eye problems are typical in this breed. Is that so?
I have no idea. I would talk to a vet on that one. Next.
I have 2 dogs. Not sure which one is alpha. Any suggestions?
Why does it matter? You know what I mean? So why does it matter? Which dog is alpha? I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. It wouldn't matter to me. I mean, you sort of want to know the order of hierarchy in your dogs, but don't put too much precedent on it, or you'll figure it out soon enough just by observing your dogs. Next.
Why mini educator instead of Dogtra? Dogtra was a collar you liked on one of your videos.
When I first got into dog training, mini educator didn't exist. The company didn't exist. So now we're using mini educators. I also use Dogtra though. Next.
Am I right to my dog to put him in timeout?
Timeout doesn't work. Timeout doesn't work for kids. Timeout doesn't work for dogs. They don't understand timeout. That's a humanization of the dog. There's no value to it whatsoever. A proper punishment should be like, boom, you're done. 1 second, you're done. That's it. You're done. So to me, this concept of timeout is just, it's not in my world. If it works for you, keep doing it. I'm just not finding it have any meaning whatsoever in a dog's life. Next.
Sorry for all the questions. Been looking forward to the What Would Jeff Do?
Oh, no problem, Bill. I love the questions.
Hello. My Dobie is always in high alert. when outside chasing squirrels and lizards won't relax.
So what you can do is, we see this all the time, and it all depends on what your dog is doing. On a walk, the last thing I want my dog to do is to be in alert. Remember, I'm a family pet dog trainer. Most people don't need their dogs to be in more aroused or more alert. What most people need is they need their dogs to be more relaxed. So you actually can punish arousal. Punish arousal. And when I say the word punish, people are like, oh, so abuse the dog or hurt the dog? I didn't say that. That's what society has interpreted punishment to be. So punish the dog, the arousal. Arousal will be your enemy if you're trying to fix unwanted behaviors. The last thing we need the dog to do is to be aroused. So what do? A bonk. You can use a bonker, which is a cotton towel rolled up. You can use a remote collar as well. So it's not going to make the dog shut down. This whole thing about like, oh, you've shut down the dog. It's like, no, you haven't. You haven't. What you're doing is controlling or eliminating arousal, and that you're not destroying the drive of the dog either. Next. It's good for dogs to have on-off switches. It's good. So right now, people on YouTube can't see this, but so there's two of my dogs right there. I assure you, they're not tired. They're not tired around. They're not tired at all. So those dogs right now can just go run 20 miles. Well, girl can't. She's going for surgery on Tuesday because she's got a tear in her back leg. But those dogs are ready to go. But they know we're inside right now. Do nothing. Next.
I have a Corso, no eye problems so far, but cherry eye is the most common thing I've heard of.
Yeah, we see that in bulldogs too. Cherry eye. Next.
Practicing a perfect heel in the driveway, helping so much.
Awesome. Great.
Is it important to give alone time to two dogs so that they don't develop separation anxiety?
Train them separately, and then work them off of each other. So you're right. So you don't have a dog that, like, when the other dog is gone, there's anxiety issues. We see that a lot. Or I hate to use the word jealousy because that's a humanization word, but if I use the word jealousy, just for people to understand what that means, we don't want your dogs to be like that. Next.
I hope you guys have an amazing new year.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. As in what we do with humans, not spending every waking minute with them so they get upset when we are gone.
Yeah, exactly. That's why a lot of people have separation anxiety. It's just probably my leash reactivity is probably my number one issue that people struggle with, and then separation anxiety is probably the second biggest thing that people struggle with that contact us. So being able to have your dog just exist, is good. Next.
Yeah, he said, like you say, learning how to exist.
Yeah, exactly. Next.
I love your dog. Okay.
Cool. I think you're talking to someone else.
I thought they were talking to you maybe because you showed a picture. I don't know. Oh yeah. Is it just going to take time for my dog to not run around and act crazy when he doesn't have a leash on?
No, you can eliminate that in one day. So you can eliminate that like immediately if you want to. So, but number one, if your dog is not underneath voice control, it should have a leash on. If you can't tell your dog to knock it off, if you can't send your dog to place, if you can't drop your dog into a downstay, if you can't control your dog's out of control energy with one command within 1 or 2 seconds, then put a leash on your dog, or else you're going to get frustrated. You're going to get frustrated, and then you're going to be yelling at your dog, and then nobody's going to be having fun. Nobody's going to be having fun. So that's what happens with a lot of folks is they take the leash off their dog way too soon. Way too soon. Next.
Good luck to girl.
Thank you.
When he has prong on, I put it on every day. He is super chill and lays around, but a couple times, the rest of the question.
So when your dog right now is, until your dog, tools help you leverage the training. A lot of times dogs get collar smart though. So the goal is the goal is that you want to have your dog do learn both. We don't want them to be collar dependent, but also how long have you been working with a dog? You know what I mean? So how long have you been working with a dog? That's what's really, really important. Is a lot of times people are like, oh, I've been working for just a month or 2 months, which if you've been busting your ass for 2 months, that is a good amount of time. But for a month, yeah, don't worry about it. Keep doing it. But you also want to make sure your dog understands the concept of no. Also, switch to remote collar as well, because that'll give you distance commands as well as off-leash commands. Next.
Muzzle for smushy-faced dogs. I have a mesh one. He can get it off, though.
Yeah, go online. There's some bulldog and boxer muzzle companies that make that make it for a lot of dogs. They make that for dogs. Next.
My dang 2-year-old lets him out of the crate without prong on, and he acts like he's finally free. LOL.
Your 2-year-old, so don't take this personally. That's a parenting issue. So I got 7 kids. I'm the farthest thing from a perfect father. The farthest thing from a perfect father. I have made a shitload of mistakes. But as a dog trainer, we want to make sure that your 2-year-old does not have access to be able to unlock your dog's crate. That's a major safety issue. As you know, that's why you put it out there. And I'm absolutely not shaming you. I'm not that dog trainer. But I would, if my 2-year-old was letting my dog out of a crate and I told my 2-year-old not to, number one, there would be a consequence for that 2-year-old. So, but enough. I'm not going to sit here and lecture people how to be a parent. No, don't use a lock. Don't use a lock. Have a conversation with your 2-year-old. Next. Your 2-year-old's old enough to understand.
Should they be able to see each other when working them or in separate rooms?
You can do both. You can do both. So if you're working dogs off of each other, you can have, at the beginning, if you want to have one dog in crate, one dog out of a crate, if you want to have one in place, one out of place, if you want to have them in 2 separate rooms, it's all good. It's all good. It teaches them impulse control, duration, and eliminates any separation anxiety between the 2 dogs that you might have. Next, sorry.
What things should I be working on with second dog while other dog is at board and train?
That's a really, really good question. What I would do is this, all the basics. So going in and out of a kennel on command, lying down on command, in the kennel, work on place, work on downstays, work on walking your dog next to you politely, work on eliminating any reactivity issues towards the door, because you're going to have to be doing that with both of them when the other dog comes back from a board and train. Next. And then also you become educated as a dog handler. Next.
I don't yell, but I feel like I have to use strong voice for her to listen. Okay.
It's not the worst thing in the world. It's not the worst thing in the world to do it. But that's the great thing about, remote collar training is that can whisper or yell for you. It's pretty powerful. Next.
He said prong collar and leash on for maybe a month. Seems collar smart.
Yeah, we just answered that a little bit ago. Yeah, that's okay. I answered it right off the screen. Thank you.
Oh, you did one of those. Dobie, follow up with punishment. Will he know he's being corrected for alertness and not relaxing?
Yes. Yeah. Dogs are pretty smart. We do it all the time. So remember, the only advice that I give out is something I've done anywhere from hundreds to thousands of times successfully. If not, I'll always precede it like, hey, I don't have a lot of experience in, I don't have a lot of experience with like using oils with relaxation or separation anxiety or crate anxiety or driving or car sickness, but some of my colleagues do. Look into it. But as far as reactivity on the walk, your dog will absolutely know that it's being corrected for alertness, or it'll know that when it's alert, it gets corrected. So it'll figure it out. Why? We've done it hundreds of thousands of times. We've done it. So many times we've done it, and that's not a, that's a 4,000 to 5,000 dogs now we've worked with. We do it with dogs. At least we do it with dogs that like 20 times, right? 25 times while we're working them through their issues. So that's 100,000 right there. Next.
How do you start muzzle conditioning an aggressive dog that won't let you touch it or even get it out?
Carefully. We do that all with clicker and food. I don't have a good video of it up right now, but we do all of that stuff with clicker and food. Or you can be really forceful and just force, you slip lead the dog, hold the dog into a fence, and put the muzzle on if you have to. But I would use the dog's daily food. If you don't know how to use a clicker, underneath our FAQ questions on our website, it shows you how to condition a dog to a clicker, and then start doing clicker collar conditioning. Muzzle conditioning, sorry. Next.
I don't know if we did this one. What's the percentage of dogs being trained effectively with any professional help?
Without any, people fully off-leash train their dogs and modify their behavior with our free videos around the world. I get emails every day. So listen, what we do is not magic. What we do is not magic. We are not musicians. A lot of dog trainers will try to make it sound like they're these like magicians, or, you know, oh my God, you're a miracle worker. It's like, no, we're not. We're not special. You know, we're not special at all. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, there was no such thing as dog trainers other than sport dog and trick dog trainers and agility trainers. Nobody needed a pet dog trainer. Nobody did. Everybody did it themselves, and they did just fine. So people are very successful on their own. Meanwhile, you know, I've got job security. My staff has got job security. Because why? The media makes it look like if you punish your dog or say no to your dog, you're being abusive, which is really, really dangerous. That's why we're killing all these dogs. We're killing all these dogs because society has said a certain thing. So what you need to do is you have to understand that all dogs learn through yes and no concepts, just like children, just like adults. Next.
At T3, when people travel locations, do most book Airbnbs? Are there close places?
Yeah, a lot of people that go to T3 will do Airbnb, or they'll do a hotel that's close to us. But Airbnb is probably going to be your best option. Next.
My dog is overly friendly with strangers that come to my door. He barks but does not growl.
So that wasn't a question. Okay, cool. That was a statement. Next.
Is classical music calming for dogs?
Some dogs, we play classical music in our kennel. We play classical music in our kennel, but I don't think that's why we do it. We actually increase the level at night, probably to drown out any environmental sounds. We also have a lot of dogs in our kennel, and we don't allow barking. I wish it was easy as just playing classical music. Put it this way, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. Next.
My Chihuahua's like death metal.
Yep.
I train my dog 100% off leash, all basic obedience and tricks, all myself with the help of Jeff's videos.
Awesome. Thank you.
And Heather says it's all about owners being willing to do the work.
Yep. Someone's got to do the work. It's not a miracle. Someone's got to do the work. Next.
How can you tell a well-behaved dog just from observing someone walking with the dog?
Well, you can't tell everything about it. You don't know if the dog is a resource guarder. You don't know if the dog bites kids. You don't know if the dog gets into dog fights. But you usually can tell a dog that's obedience trained from the walk. At least they can walk proper. That doesn't mean they can do a 1 hour downstay, with dogs running by. But you can tell if the owner is connected to the dog usually. I see well-behaved dogs all the time, but that doesn't mean that they're safe. That doesn't mean that they're safe. So, you just watch someone. If they're getting dragged down the street, it's a dog that doesn't know how to heel. If they're being walked in a proper heel without pulling, that means the dog, all you can really tell is the dog knows how to heel. Next.
I play country because it's the only station I get in that room.
Was that Julie?
Yeah.
Nice.
She also says she stayed at an Airbnb and was able to walk to the seminar.
Yeah, she stayed very close. Yeah, but Julie walked around the city of Providence. I think Julie dropped probably 10 pounds just probably just from all the walking she did.
She walked around a lot?
She walked around a ton. Next.
I like to hear that.
Yeah. Julie's awesome.
How much time daily should you work on the obedience training at home to be successful?
You can work on it for anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour a day. 30 minutes to an hour a day.
She wants to.
So, but then you make dog training life. Just make it part of your life, part of your world. Look at it as part of your world. Don't look at it as a lifestyle instead of a chore. Does that make sense? Just make it part of your lifestyle. Next.
Julie says Providence is beautiful.
It is. It's a beautiful city.
Thanks for loving our city. We love it too.
It's a great city.
How do you make your dog not freak out when other dogs sniff its butt?
You would do that by advocating for your dog. You would do that through slowly introducing your dog to other dogs. We do that in a dog socialization. What we do is we have the dog on a leash, and we use a dressage whip to push other dogs gently away to create space. Then if a dog comes up to it and sniff its butt. We can let the dog maybe sniff for 1 second, and then we gently guide our dog away with a leash, and we gently push the other dog away. We just advocate for it. Just advocate for it. Next.
Name a dog trainer you're impressed with.
I don't do that stuff. I'll tell you my favorite food. I don't play that. No offense, but that's not the way this show works.
What's your favorite color?
Purple. Next.
I knew that.
Good. You'll notice that I don't name names on my show. You'll notice that I don't name names on my show. So I don't slam people, and I don't really praise people. And it's not because I don't want people to get good, kudos to them. But I'm more proactive in my stuff than reactive in my stuff when it comes to stuff. Next.
3-year-old Dobie, no signs of guard instincts. Will that come soon?
No, don't worry about that. You don't want your Doberman to be guarding. Trust me, you don't. You don't need a guard dog. Having your Doberman be well trained and well behaved is enough of a deterrent towards your average criminal. So if I was not on drugs, which I'm not, and I saw you with a Doberman, I'm not going to break into your house. I'm not going to break into your house. All right. If I'm on drugs, I can care less how many dogs you have. Why? Because I'm Superman. That's why. So to me, your average person that's going to come in contact with your dog is not going to be anybody that has a bad element to them. They're probably going to be friendly. So the last thing I'd want your dog to do is be aggressive. Now, if you want to get your dog into sport dog training in the sport world, go right ahead. Absolutely. But I don't want your dog to just be randomly being protective of you when you really don't need it. That's just dangerous. Set you up for lawsuits, and also it ends up with a dead dog. Next.
Rephrase. How can I get my dog to know the difference between a friend and a stranger?
You don't need to. You just don't. Just don't. So don't worry about it. Just don't worry about it. It's so important that we don't make that mistake. Don't make that mistake. Most people are really, really nice in this world. Don't be a headline reader. Everybody reads headlines. Everybody reads headlines. They read the one news story about the bad guy, about the bad girl. But to me, what I would do is, I wouldn't worry about it. Next.
Nose placed with distractions. Inside, not outside. Back to kindergarten for outside, or correct instead?
You want to go back. Don't go all the way back to kindergarten. Hold the dog accountable for distractions outside. But remember, your dog can be bomb-proof inside. It goes outside and boom, it's totally distractible. Totally distractible. So what you can do is, if your dog actually knows the commands, you can hold your dog accountable, but then you still have to do the training with the distractions. So that's almost like a separate training module in your training curriculum. Next.
Any truth? Girl dogs like male humans and female dogs like males?
I've never noticed that. I've never noticed that. Next.
My golden doodle barks a lot. Why is that?
Because you never told the dog. The reason why your dog barks so much is because you never told the dog to not bark so much in a way the dog understands. That's why. That's why. I mean, that's what golden doodles do. It's like, no, they don't. Like, all dogs bark, or all dogs don't. Like, you just never told the dog not to bark in a way that it believes. So next.
Will you put this Q&A on YouTube, or is there a way I can save it?
Yeah, this will go up on YouTube in about 3 days. It's also on Spotify, SoundCloud, and iTunes, Google Voice. So if you're not part of our, if you haven't joined SoundCloud, just join SoundCloud or join Spotify. It'll be up there. Next. And the podcast, you have the What Would Jeff Do podcast. Next.
You have to train a dog to be a real guard dog.
Yeah, you have to actually go. Your dog might not have the temperament to be a guard dog. Trust me, 99% of dogs, if not higher, can't be guard dogs. True protection dogs. Even dogs that are temperament tested to be protection dogs wash out. So they just don't have the drive. Next.
Name a few breeds you'll recommend for kids. Please don't say all breeds are trainable.
Well, all breeds are trainable. It's not about, it all depends on the kids and the family. So my dogs, so I've got mostly German Shepherds. In my family, my German Shepherds are great with the family. The exact same dogs might be horrific for a family. It has more to do with the family than it does with the dog. It has more to do with the training protocols and the training philosophy than it does with the dog. So the reason why I say that is because if you're convinced that labs are great with families, like the labs that I meet are horrific with families. So it's more about the training program. It would be irresponsible actually to say a certain breed is a good family dog. It would actually be irresponsible to say that. It's more about the training protocol. I'm the guy that gets the phone calls about the bites every day of my life. Every day. All day long, I get the emails, the personal messages of my dog bit my kid. 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 My whole life is consumed by dog bites. So I'm not going to name a breed because it's actually unethical to name a breed. It's more about what's the lifestyle of the family. Are you an active family? Or are you a non-active family? Do you have a level of expectation that is reasonable with the dog that you have? Do you understand dog behavior? Do you know how to stop unwanted behaviors in dogs? That's the magic of that. That's the magic. But I can't imagine somebody saying, yeah, get a schnoodle. It's a great family dog. The schnoodles that I've met have been horrific family dogs. That's why they made it to my doorstep. So if I gave you if I gave you Kira tomorrow and you had 3 kids, you would call me up before the sun set telling me that Kira is the worst dog and get her out of my house right now. Meanwhile, she's around my kids all the time. So it is the training. It is the training. Next.
My female Corso hates men.
There you go. There you go. That was probably in reference to like the female dog, the male, But so I'm not, it's possible that you're not correcting it. And give me your female Corso for 3 months, and I might get it to fall in love with men. Do you know what I mean? So again, I think once we pigeonhole our dogs into a corner, once we pigeonhole our dogs into a corner, sometimes it's hard to get them out of it. Next.
Besides the e-collar, first move to stop unwanted barking?
A bark collar then. A bark collar then.
No longer barks incessantly at guests, but will let out 1 or 2 barks under her breath. Correct?
If you want to, you can, but it's not the worst thing in the world. I personally wouldn't make a big deal of it. I wouldn't make a big deal with it. Next.
For confidence building, what do you like to do?
Trick training is great. Obedience training in general is great. Agility is great. Stuff like that. Next.
I sneak my dog onto the tennis court because I don't believe in dog parts. Suggestive play games?
Yeah. Recall is fun. Long distance obedience is fun. Fetch is fun. Frisbee's fun. Do some trick training. That's fun. Next.
Belgian Malinois or German Shepherd?
I firmly believe that your average pet dog family should not own a Mal and probably should not get a high drive German Shepherd. Mals are intense dogs. You need to be, chances are you need to work them daily. The drive in most males is, off the charts. They were bred for a certain purpose, and they were bred to be pretty much off the charts, which goes to your benefit if you're doing sport dog work with them, protection work with them, or certain task training with them. There are some males that are, sometimes breeders have different categories of like German Shepherds. So there's working dog shepherd, and there'll be like the more that go on for the pet dog. You can have lower drive shepherds in the same litter. You can do that. The breeder usually can tell if they can give a temperament test at a young age, but then again, until they've reached maturity, you just don't know. You just don't know. So depends on what you want. It also depends on what you're going to use the dog for. So if you want your basic family dog, I'd go with a Shepherd over a Malinois. Next. That's my opinion. Next, for what it's worth.
On the male dog versus female dogs, like male versus female humans, could it be a socialization error?
Yeah, a lot of times what happens is a lot of times dogs are not as, they don't warm up or as friendly as to men, because a lot of dogs haven't been socialized with men. I mean, if you look at the rescue world, it's primarily it's primarily the rescue world it's primarily female. So it goes from female to female to female. So they're not exposed to a lot of men. So that's a lot of times we see that as well. We see the lack of socialization. Don't answer that.
Do you allow your dogs to enter your other dogs'
Oh yeah, I can care less. They sleep in the same crates, like these, but I can care less. But at the end of the day, it's like they have their crates. So, but during the middle of the day, so my dogs have an outdoor kennel that's attached to the house that's heated and air conditioned, that's hooked up to a 2,500 square foot yard. So, what happens is I can care less what kennels they go into. Next. Alowitz, that's the first time I've seen your question.
Yep.
That's the first time. So you must not have typed it in.
Are you getting, okay, so when is it okay for a kid to play with a dog?
So again, that's an open-ended question. It all depends on the dog, and it all depends on the child, and it all depends on you as an adult and your supervision skills, and it depends on the age. So, it depends on what the child's going to do with the dog. So hugging a dog, your average child should not be hugging a dog. Most dogs don't like to be hugged. They don't like that amount of pressure put on them. That's why children are getting bit. So what does playing mean? Does it mean so my children, what they do is part of my kids' chore list is they take the dogs to the swimming pool 8 months out of the year and they play fetch with them. They throw the ball in the pool, they come out. So that's the kids' interaction. So they'll play games with the dog. But for a child just to walk up to a dog and hug it, I don't encourage any child or any parent to allow that to happen. So it all depends on also your dog. Your dog might not like to be touched. Reading to a dog is a lot of fun. They both sit down together, they read. Gentle petting could be acceptable. But some dogs don't like to get pet. Some dogs will bite you over that. Also depends on where the dog is being pet. So a lot of dogs freak out about running kids. So there's so many different variables that are out there. And then you as the supervisor of your child and the supervisor of your dog, you got to make sure that you advocate for both of them. Next.
How do you train your two dogs to play together appropriately?
Depends on what you're starting with. So it depends on what you got to start with. So if they're fighting right now, it's going to be more of a challenge. So personally, I let my dogs play rough. So I let them play rough with each other, never with another dog. They can't do that with any other dog. So I let them play rough with each other. And then what you do is, if it gets too rough, you can stop it. You can say, knock it off, enough. But your dogs have to know what that means. So I've instilled an on-off switch into all my dogs. I let them play rough. And then I say enough, and it has to stop. And that's usually a good way to do it. Is if you're going to let your dogs get all, excuse me, oh my gosh, it's burped live on the air. Sushi though was pretty good. We had sushi tonight. Good sushi. Shrimp cocktail. Those chocolate chip cookies you made.
I made some damn good chocolate.
Nice.
Mine are the best.
That was good. So if you're going to get your dog to be all drivey, you better be able to turn the dog off like that. Next.
It's that time.
Ooh, we've been on for an hour. A couple more questions. Next.
Let's see. Great Dane is great with everyone except one guy, thinking I should heed his warning.
Maybe.
Dog pants and shakes in the car, even in a down when windows are closed. Any advice? It's cold.
Yeah. This is the thing. I would work on a remote collar. What we do on that is with the remote collars is, hold on, let me skip over that. But with a remote collar on a low level, you can actually interrupt all that stuff, and you can get the dog to start not shutting down, but getting more and more relaxed. So you can role play that. Don't do it while you're driving. Have somebody else in the car doing it for you. Next.
My dog always sleeps on the floor touching my wife's feet. Why is this?
Sleeps on the floor. Sleeps on the floor. Is your wife on the floor too? That doesn't make sense. But why does the dog do it? Because it's in close proximity to your wife. Dogs like physical contact. Some of them don't. So for some reason, your dog likes to be, on the, touching a human's foot. It's not the worst thing in the world unless your dog is guarding your wife. Unless your dog is guarding your wife. If your dog is guarding your wife, I would stop that. I would start creating space by doing like place or kenneling up your dog. Next.
Did I do this? Happy New Year. Thanks for taking time and answering questions.
Oh, well, thank you. Happy New Year to everybody else.
Do you have a video on the on-off switch?
I don't. But a lot of it's like, people are like, how do I train my dog calm on command? Pretty much everything we do creates that. So everything we do creates that. So I don't have a video on the on-off switch, but I do have a video of, well, on is easy. Most dogs like run around like crazy. That most dogs run around like crazy. The off switch, though, is going to be, well, if you have a remote collar on your dog, you can say enough, knock it off. If you have a dressage whip, you can give a little bit of a crack of the dressage whip. You can do that, and then boom, tell them what to do. So you can have them do place and things like that. Next. Okay. All right, guys. Oh wow, it is 9:10. We've been on for over an hour. Happy New Year to everybody. This was our last. This is our last show of 2017. I think we're on like show 415 or something. I've been doing this for a really long time. Make sure you can look for us on Spotify, on SoundCloud, on iTunes. We have our own podcast channel, What Would Jeff Do? You can search for that. Please listen to us on all our different, different platforms. And let me just get rid of that last bot there. And I want to wish everybody a Happy New Year. For all my folks, I know there's somebody in New Zealand. You've already celebrated the New Year. So, thank you so much. Thank you for all being part of our lives in 2017. You guys have been great. I'm madly in love with you. I can't tell you how proud I am of all of you for doing just such a great job. Training your dogs, rehabbing your dogs, asking great questions. It's been great. It's been fantastic, meeting so many new people. I travel the world training dogs at seminars, and I just meet, so many new people, and it's just fantastic. And you're all just such a special part of my life, that it's just great. And we'll see you all next week. I'm still in town. Yep. I know I've got to go down to Florida for a seminar. And I want to thank Linda, of course, as my lovely co-host, because she's been great. She's been great. All right. Happy New Year. Take care, everybody. Love you all. Bye-bye.